Hello, team. It's time for the Daily Detangler. What is change anyway? We've been exploring change, especially in the context of stone soup. And when it comes to stone soup, what is the relationship between what's possible and change? That's today's Daily Detangler, and I want to share a little bit about what I'm seeing with regard to our own team. We're actually really interesting here, driving a lot of activity around figuring things out and getting across the bridge. Activator put out her thoughts on the 60 Minutes, and Mercedes put out some questions to the group around things that she's tangled up about with regard to getting across the bridge, and just some of the things that we're going through to evolve, not only thinking but doing, right, and learning as we go. And one of the things that happened in the stone soup story to create this amazing soup and to create this this overall, like, something from nothing, was this idea of bringing together people with a lot of different ingredients to create something from nothing together, and injecting the right energy and providing the right nudging and suggestion along the way. And this idea of like an experience and sharing this experience together, not only as travelers in the story did, where they started from their current state and they forged this path together through a town and they created something from nothing and then went on their way again. There's that shared experience. But then there's the experience that they created in making the soup, and the shared experiences with the townspeople who participated. And this idea of not only sharing ingredients, but sharing experiences really got me to thinking about what's happening on our team, and this idea of staying plugged in and being in flow and creating together means sharing experiences together so that we can forge ahead. And the impacts of that to me that I saw in the story of stone soup is, one, these travelers on the right, they will always have this shared experience. They'll probably be talking about this forever, and the rest of their lives, type of thing. And then also the townspeople themselves have this shared experience of interacting with these two travelers as they created something from nothing. And the buzz that they created will also be something that's memorable and lasts a long time. People will always remember what they created together in this shared experience. And that got me to thinking about our elephant. We use the elephant for a metaphor for change. We talk about the rider directing the elephant, and this comes from the book Switch. And we've put a lot of work with Conceptor and Catalyst around the change bridge and understanding what's happening here. And when I looked at the change bridge and dissected the stone soup story, I started seeing some commonalities. For example, on the current state, the from what, there's some observations, there's a starting point, there's this current state foundation, and then there's these little posts, these little posts of anchors that are anchoring to the past. And we see that in this change story of the elephant as he's walking across the bridge, and the rider, and he's, the elephant's sweating a little bit here because he's having to leave the starting point. He's having to leave the current state, and get across this rickety bridge. And where is he going to? Well, this outcome. What is this outcome, and what is this end state of the goal and the objective standing on? This future state has this goal or this objective that this elephant and rider can achieve, and that represents this from what to what story. And when I look at this in the stone soup piece, there's a from what to what of stone soup. And the question I asked myself is, did these travelers, did they Did they cross the bridge, or did they take a step on the bridge? I don't know. What do you think? Was that a step on the bridge, or did they cross the bridge all the way? That's a question I have about the Stone Soup story when I look at this. So when I started to kind of plot this out and think about this, it really became, well, what are the anchors to the future? I mean, if this bridge isn't attached to something around the goal or the future state, what are the anchors to the future? And I said, well, let me use Stone Soup to think about this. So there's the observations and the outcome, right? The travelers, they stood on a hill, they used their binoculars, and they observed this town, and they made some assumptions about the town, and they knew that they were hungry and they were starving, and they didn't know exactly what they would create, right? Like maybe this bowl should be empty, but the goal, because the goal is like a blank, the bowl itself is like a blank slate. It's just whatever the ingredients are. But they knew that they had to eat, and they knew that they were starving, so the outcome here was something to eat, right? So they made these observations, and then they somehow got this outcome. They somehow got across the bridge in that regard. And then they had a starting point, and they said, we're starving, and they left the town full. Maybe they were even stuffed, and in that way they crossed the bridge. So it looks like we've got to me, some bridge evidence, right? Not only are they getting from these observations to the outcome, but they're coming in starving and they're leaving stuffed. It is soon that makes me think they got across the bridge and they achieved their goal. And when I look at their future state view, what are they leaving as? When they left the town, they're leaving as there's the master chef experts. The people in the town recognize that. They're coaching people as they're leaving town on what to do and what the ingredients are, and they have lasting impact on the people on the town. And they're continuing their journey. They're off again on to this next step in their journey. So it would seem that they got across the bridge in the future state, but they're continuing to go. It's like they're going to have to cross another bridge soon, right? Like, to me, once you cross the bridge, is it over? I don't know. So did they cross the bridge? It looks like it feels like and looks like they did. And interestingly enough, it's the same picture. The opening picture and the closing picture are the same. The current state and the future state are the same picture, but the perspective is different. The current state perspective is they're tattered, they're broken down, they're weathered, they're beaten, they're sloppy, they're dirty, they're poor. And the future state is their master chef experts, coaches, lasting impact. Same people, same gear, but they are across the bridge. So how does that happen? Like, what is that? When you look at that, and when I think about, like, for example, us as a team being transparent and authentic with each other and putting it out there of where we are as weary travelers, and then also all the work we've been doing to anchor to the future, because that's key. If you remember back to the bridge, these anchors to the future are really critical. If you don't have anchors to the future, you don't have a bridge. You can't cross it. And all of us have shared that, I believe, in one, either privately with me or with Catalyst, some of the anchors to the past. I don't know exactly everybody's anchors to the past. I don't have all those conversations, but I know that there's discussions and between and among each other, and sometimes with me, right? So there's this anchors to the past and anchors to the future, but it's the same picture. So what are they anchoring to? Well, what do you see for anchors to the past and anchors to the future in this? I see something. I see it. Do you see it? What are the anchors to the past and what are the anchors to the future? Well, to me, the anchors to the past are their gear, right? The gear that they've accumulated, their baggage that they've carried, their tools, right? There's some baggage there, there's some tools there, there's some, things, some skills, that they're bringing with. And what's the anchors to the future? Well, the anchors to the future are their mindset and where they're looking and their brain. That's what's anchoring them to the future. And to me, in that way, when I think about that, that's what we're working on with our principles, our mindset shifts, our um, getting in flow every day, the exercises that we do in Google Forms, things like that. So this plots out, and I have, it seems like through the stone soup analogy, there's some linkages here to the from what state. What are the travelers observing? What's their starting point? How do we define their current state? And what are they anchored to the past with all the gear that they're carrying? And then on the future state side, the to what side, the outcome that they're driving, the goal and the objective that they're achieving, and what the future state looks like, and their anchors to the future. So it seems like they're getting across the bridge, and they're moving from what's possible and asking themselves what's possible, despite their condition, to what's the next town. Because if you remember the story, they're asking what's the next possible, what's the next possibility, right? But what happens here, because this is critical to me in stone soup, right? So we have this evidence of the idea of walking in the bridge, but what happened there in the story? What were some of the ingredients or some of the things or components that helped get across the bridge? And when I actually dissected the stone soup, line by line, and looked for patterns there, and also, thought about some of the patterns that we have on our own team to, an activator published that she's in the middle of the bridge. What did the team do? What did the team do to help try to get across the bridge and ask what's possible next and help activate her with that? And plotting that out is, a lot of backward bike. There's a lot of inputs. There's physiology that happens to the elephant. There's feelings, there's emotions that, you're moving from here to there and trying to figure that out. And then there's this idea of, how do we think about it? How do we think about it? How do we build out some sort of structure? And there's this idea of action, right? And taking action and getting to the other side. And I see that happen in the stone soup analogy. And I also see that happening in the elephant walking across the bridge, right? The rider has feelings and emotions, thinking, acting, and achieving. These travelers had this situation that gave them all these inputs. They had to figure out what to do, keep their emotions in check. They had to take action and bring people together. And in that way, they learned how to not only adjust their thinking, but change their approach. And that approach allowed them to eat and go on to the next town. And that's a lot of backward bike, because it happens not only individually, it happens in a group, right? They could not have done it without the group. They could not have done it without the townspeople participating. Without that participation, they wouldn't have got across the bridge, right? So what helps get stone soup then, right? I'm like really intrigued by this because we see stone soup ingredients being made, and I would submit that there's some little, bowls of soup being created. And I think we do have stuff going in, and we do have stuff ingredients we could serve up. Might not be as tasty as we would like, but there's things that are being, there's some servable things, right? So what does that look like? Well, on the to what side to create our stone soup, there's the commitment to an outcome, and there's alignment to goals, just like the elephant crossing the bridge and what the travelers had to do. That's what I see and how the team's engaging. We're, committing to driving the outcome together and aligning to the goal and the objective. And we're creating this shared experience through how we engage. Then we're also focusing on what we observe and keeping our mindsets in check and helping each other stay in the right mindset. And there's a lot of belief in what we're doing. There's a lot of confidence and belief that this is going to not only work, but it's also going to be, our futures. So we're able to, anchor to those past things, but also as we cross the bridge, let go, because we're observing, our mindset and our beliefs let us let go of those past anchors. And then as we're charting the course across the bridge, we're directing the rider and steering the elephant, right? So how does that work on our team? What's working there, right? So what's working so far is we're committing to the outcome, we're aligning to the goals and objectives, we're observing, we're focusing on mindset, we're having confidence, we're keeping our energy up, we're charting the course across the bridge. And now our elephants, individually and together, our group elephants, and our riders have to get across the bridge. So what's working there? Well, what's working for us is starting small and doing it together, just like the travelers in the stone soup story, right? They started small, they did it together. What's working for us is we know what we have, we're using what we have. I'm trying to anchor more to what we have and what we've produced and build off of it and trust the process. And that's what the travelers did. They used what they had. They trusted the process. And, then what goes in here? What is this thing? What is this thing that gets them together, right? Like gets them to work together and move together and get across the bridge together. And it's this shared experience. And this shared experience galvanizes them together and creates forward momentum. And the rider and the elephant are both going across, right? Because the shared experience is not just people. If the people just did it, without the elephant, they wouldn't have the outcome on the other side. They wouldn't have the strength and the resources of the elephant. They wouldn't be able to use the elephant's, abilities over there. And then the elephant just going across without the riders is useless as well. Something like that, right? So what are some of the ingredients, if you will, or components of the rider from the story? Well, the rider got encouraged, right? So what I'm saying here is, as these travelers crossed the bridge, what was injected through the stone soup story to their rider, to them, their mindset, to themselves? Well, there was a lot of encouragement. They had discipline, they had patience, they had a lot of focus, they learned by doing, they clarified, they were resilient, they didn't stop, they followed each other. One person led and one person followed, and they encouraged each other just by being present and engaged, right? So there was this engagement piece of the rider. And then this created a kind of a partnership, if you will, of shared experience. And on the elephant side, to make the stone soup, what happened? Well, there was this idea of keep it simple, hold up the possibility for everybody to see, stay on message, stay on message. This is the best soup ever. Encourage the ingredients. I think it could use a little bit more. What about carrots? Yes, carrots. Good. Encourage those ingredients. And then figure out who's curious themselves. Who's asking the questions, and follow that, and encourage and engage the curious people, the curious townspeople, not the people who are closing the doors, but those who are curious. Engage them, and that helps steer the elephant. That's to me how this plank of shared experience was laid in the stone soup analogy. And this is what I'm seeing on our team as we lay planks where we're encouraging each other, but we're trying to keep it simple. We're balancing this. We've got to be super thoughtful with this. We've got to be super zen and clear and simple. We have to be deep and we have to have the logic, but at the same time, we have to make it accessible. That type of stuff comes from creating some sort of shared experience together. And that's that I see one of the hard parts about what we do is, how do we create that shared experience together, and allow Catalyst and free up Catalyst to create more experiences, because that's really one of his great skill sets in his role, is creating shared experiences. So how do we free him up to do that more, with the clients? And that's, to me, how all this comes together, is in connecting the dots between our change stories and our metaphors of stone soup, the backward bike, the principles, all of it comes together and walking across the bridge and making things happen. And that's to me the connect the dots principle of number six. Number six is connect the dots. So share experiences. That activator, when she shared the 60 minutes and asked for help, when Mercedes asked for help, if you remember, I asked for help a long time ago with Mimecast, sharing the experiences, sharing what we're struggling with, being transparent, also, being focused on, it's not about me, it's about the outcome and driving the soup together and helping stir the pot. That's critical. And change happens one experience at a time. That's been your daily detangler today. Thanks so much for your time, and I'll see you tomorrow.